Hello, dear friends. Ramadan Kareem. My name is Lubna and I'm part of the KHDA Wellbeing team. I'm joined today by my colleagues Nuha, Greta, Qamariya, Luke, and Nada, and together we'll be facilitating today's workshop. Welcome to week 2 of the Dubai School Wellbeing Workshops for 2021. Last week we have heard some amazing presentations by students and international well-being experts. We hope you had the chance to engage in those workshops. If not, their sessions have been recorded and will be shared on the New Days, New Ways website this week. You will be using the Menti platform uh, as a way to engage with you all day. As we wait for some more people to join us, may I kindly invite you to please go to the menti.com and enter the code 92180 236. Please enter the code 92180 236. So I would kindly request you to enter in one word, what does school belonging mean to you? Please enter in one word, what does school belonging means to you? For those who joined recently, please log on to menti.com and enter the code 92180 236 and answer this question. What does school belonging mean to you in one word? Okay, we can see the first answer here. It's empowerment. Another word is safety, emotional safety. Interesting. So far we have 3 people answered the Menti question. Yeah, we have more answers here, attachment and safety as well. Family, respected. So please, for those who joined recently, please enter menti.com and enter the code 9218236. So far, we have 11 members answered the question. Being part of the team, it's about friendship, it's inclusion, it's homely, it's courage, it's respected. Interesting. Okay, so we'll move here to the next question. If you have had the chance to review your school results on school belonging, how does it compare to last year's result? Is it higher than last year's result? Is it about the same? Is it lower than last year's result? Or you haven't seen the data yet? Okay, we have 2 people. Okay, we have 3 people who answered that it's higher than last year. Okay, we have 1 who answered by lower than last year and 3 people about the same. If you had the chance to review your school's results of school well-being belongings, how does it compare to last year's result? So the highest answer is higher than last year results. And the second is it's about the same. Thank you all for your participation. I would like now to introduce our speaker today, Katrina. I would like to welcome the wonderful Katrina Manikani. Katrina wears several hats at Ford's Education and her role as a Director of Positive Education for San Marque and Regent International Schools. She works with an incredible team of over 200 educators to create a school environment where students' well-being and character development are taken care of and valued as highly as their academic achievement. In her role as a managing director of Jumeirah International Nurseries, she leads the team across for nurseries who nurtures children from 45 days to 4 years old. I will be back at the end of Katrina's session to facilitate a question and answer discussion. If you have a question, please add it to the chat feature on the right of your screen. For now, over to you, Katrina.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ramadan Kareem. It would be ideal to run this session as we used to do it in pre-pandemic times with a lot of interaction, movement, and group work. However, the challenge that I faced planning this session is nothing in comparison to the challenge that you face daily in your classrooms and in your school nowadays. So I'm sure that you all constantly grapple with questions like, how do I engage my students? How do I inspire them? How to group students for a productive work where they all have to sit separately or where half the class are not even present, they are studying online. How to see from the front of the class that Johnny at the back is actually studying and not playing Minecraft. And how to have students talk after they get used to texting each other for so long. And today, as I venture into presentation on relationship and school belonging, just a second, slideshow, okay. I want to say that, we all know about the importance of building a relationship with our students, and it's intuitive to us. But today, the relationship in the schools and the sense of belonging, these are the two interconnected topics that are underpinned by one challenge: the COVID restrictions in the school and within the class, and by the low attendance. Different schools have different attendance levels. Some schools have 80% on average. Some schools have 5%. Some schools are fully online. So how do we build relationship and still cultivate a sense of belonging in schools in this very different times? So we all know that somehow when a student likes the teacher or when they feel the teacher cares for them, they make more effort. So the teacher-student and peer-to-peer relationship at school are a predictor of students' academic success. And I found something interesting in relationship-based education, the paper written by John Hendry, an educator for more than 50 years, director of student welfare at Geelong Grammar School, advisor to UNESCO on bullying and school violence. And he found in his research that how others regard us determines our capacity to be resilient. With adolescents and adults, our regard for ourselves is positioned by how we feel others regard us within each living context. So this is about worth. Are we valued? Are we considered of worth and worthy? Are our contributions of value and valued? With being valued, we gain confidence and courage, and we develop a sense of hope. And this promotes us to try. So this builds our resilience to explore and vulnerability to make mistakes on the way. So it all starts with how we as teachers see our students. And if we look at this pathway from social regard to resilience, and remember Carol Dweck's experiment that showed the teacher perception of the student's ability could positively or negatively influence their performance, it actually gets less cryptic. It's through teachers' regard, student self-regard changes, and courage to persevere through difficulties come. So how does it look in practice?
You had so much to offer yesterday. You okay?
I'm tired.
So what's going on?
Strong relationships are central to the learning process. What the science of learning and development tells us is that we need to create learning environments which allow for strong long-term relationships for children to become attached to school and to the adults and other children in it.
When children have experiences of closeness and consistency and trust, oxytocin is released. Oxytocin has many, many positive effects on the development of the brain. So when we think about a relationship, we're not just talking about being nice to a child. We're talking about a child having an experience of attunement and trust strong enough to release the hormone oxytocin.
Good morning, Ariana. How you doing today? The purpose of the morning greeting is to connect with them and to just make sure that I'm seeing them as humans. Like I'm making that relationship with them, making that bond.
I prioritize relationship building because getting to know them is the best part of the job.
When I come in the morning, we usually talk about things that are happening in our community.
We're trying to build caring and respect.
The teacher is trying to understand who I am and my values as a person.
When I have a free 45 minutes or an hour, I think to myself, I could sit down and catch up on grading, or I could go and make connections, whether it's a smile or a joke or a reminder. It validates their presence in the building.
Rock it out in the art room. It starts from so much honesty and transparency with kids. It's really easy to strive to be this like idealized, always ready to go elementary school teacher, and that's not real and that's not human. When people start talking about other things while I'm still giving directions, it feels frustrating for me and I have to take a breath. My students connect most with me when they see that I also struggle and I also have challenges. It takes a lot of vulnerability on my part.
Total familiarity.
When that student knows that you care about them, when they know that you're a human,
Let's think about that.
their academic performance in your class is going to be better.
If I'm comfortable around them, then I'm more confident around them, and it's easier to ask questions and things like that.
So when you're looking at this graph, what is it that you think happened?
Some teachers I don't always get along with the best, so then sometimes I'm like, I can't do it, so I'm just not gonna do it. But when I like the teacher, I want to do their work. I'll be like, I can learn this.
You all have done outstanding work.
Emotion and learning are completely connected. If you're in a positive emotional space, if you feel good about yourself, your teacher, that actually opens up the opportunity for more learning.
Good to see.
So certainly the school that you've seen there is a pre-pandemic school where everybody is close to each other and everybody is in the building. However, I am sure that in our schools today, we also can build a relationship, whether online or live. In fact, I have noticed that with the rapid growth of technology that we use in the school over the last year, my connectedness with the students have even risen. So I teach creativity, activity and service for IB students. And, you know, sometimes they message me in the evening with some ideas. Sometimes we talk to the online students who are sitting, who are at home, and they switch on their camera and they show me their puppies. And we are able to connect in a little bit in a different way. So we're going to go through several strategies, but before that, I wanted to kind of bring this also to the surface that our relationship are built not only through positive experiences, but also through our reactions on the negative experiences. So let's say on negative behavior, or if it's an online student who doesn't come online for several days, our reaction to the deviating situations, the deviating behavior matters, because every behavior is a form of communication, right? You can see here the function for those who really love math, that behavior is a function of both the person and their environment. So there is always a reason for some behavior that the student is showing. And if we take this as truth, then we need to move from behavior management to the relationship management. So even when we are working through a disappointing or frustrating behavior from a student, it is so important to ensure that the student still understands that they're cared for and that they're a valued member of the school community, that we show them the unconditional positive regard, that we separate the student from their behavior, that we maintain a vision of child's wholeness. And if we have to call them out, we call them out with love in our voice, and think about them as a person who just wants to tell us something, because every behavior is a form of communication, even if they made a mistake. And our capacity for forgiveness, for allowing people to make mistakes as they navigate their way through the complex web of social interaction, is critical to that student's continued engagement with the school community. In fact, if you look through 4 hours of restorative justice, the most important here is actually the second interaction, the next interaction after the reparation. When you bump into the student on the pitch or see them in class, and at this moment it's important to remember to continue to communicate the sense of belonging, because the student will be anxious about that next interaction. So just smiling, saying hello, will make the student feel welcomed and belonging to school, and he'll feel that he's valued for who he is, and his instance of perhaps negative behavior, some choice that he's done, was not is kind of worked through and forgotten. So we constantly hear social distancing kind of phrase, but I would like to change it into the physical distancing, because we want to be physically distanced but socially close. So there is another Menti for you, and from what I just said, think about what you shall keep doing, start doing, and stop doing to foster social regard and connection with your student, even in times of physical distancing. Is it possible for people to see the Menti?
Pulling it up now, Katerina.
Sure, thank you. I really like this format of keep, start, stop, doing, because it, in a very short way, it helps us to create action points. So there is a lot of wisdom in this virtual room. And before I go to some strategies that I could think of and that we perhaps brought into our school, I'd like to hear from the audience. Are there any answers on Menti page?
Katerina, there's plenty.
Oh, is it possible to show them? Yeah, is it possible to show them? Or shall I? What shall I do? Shall I?
It's being shown. Just go to your, yeah, can you see it?
Ah, okay, great. Okay, I can see them. So stop expecting too much, keep caring, show concerns, keep communicating, start socializing within the safety protocol, stop thinking negatively, keep asking about them by different media, start telling them what I feel and that I'm also depressed and show my experience. Yeah, perhaps sharing your challenges and how you overcame them. Students like to see that their teachers are also humans, and they like to hear how other people overcome challenges. Keep smiling, start building good relationships, stop pointing. Okay, verbal appreciation. Okay, great. So there are a lot of commitments here. Okay, great. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so first of all, there is no recipe for relationship and belonging in school, for cultivating it, but there are some questions that the school need to reflect on. So, for example, this is the reflection that we have at school. So how much do we know about each child's non-academic life? So his interests, after school activities, family, and what mechanisms are put in place for this? So do we have a certain way to collect that data and then share it with teachers? So for example, all about me form, normally the younger year groups use it in FS, but are we continuing with it in all the year groups? And how do we share it with the teachers? So how the relationship with online learners are cultivated. So for example, in primary, we have students calling the online students over lunch, and they have the lunch together, and we have, we buddied them up with students who are in school, and they're responsible for calling them, and then they have a snack together. Or for example, in older classrooms during the form time, it is the classroom. It is not the classroom teacher or the form tutor who is responsible to calling the online students. The students themselves are responsible. So they are accountable to their peers of dialing them in. And then also, how do teachers talk to the students who are just online, right? Is there messaging channel? Is there a channel of communicating, not just academic feedback, but also talking through what's happening in their life? What is the way of recognizing students' contributions? So if a student is online, will they receive, let's say, school points? Will they also receive, let's say, a school spirit award or something like that, if they're online? How does staff know when something is not right with the child? So let's say, is there a mechanism that if a child is not in school for 2 days, there is a phone call that the teacher needs to do to the parents? Or is there any other mechanism? How do teachers know that a student is a little bit off in his mood? So we have something called emotional coaching for our teachers. So we run a training on emotional coaching so that they can recognize the different emotions in students, and then raise an alarm if something is not going right, and then perhaps coach them straight away in class. If that's not possible, then refer them further. So some ideas in terms of building relationship. The power of the name. It is something very simple, but especially for teachers in secondary who teach around 100 kids, not always, even by first term, they remember every child's name. So it's important to have a system in the school where the remembering each other's names is recognized as something critical. In our school, we have run once something which was called Operation Smile. So we had a student in year 11 who literally started giving up. And he believed that, you know, that he's an outcast, that nobody likes him, and that teachers pick on him. So we launched an Operation Smile where the deputy head of school sent his photo and said, hey, this is Alex. So every time you pass by him in the corridor, you say, hey, Alex, with a big smile. Of course, there were other measures, like, for example, during the class, if the teacher had something to say good about him, the teacher needed to say it publicly. And if something was of a criticism, it needed to be offered privately. So we introduced some rules. But this student then came to, he was also coached every second week by our deputy head. And he said, that's really weird. Everybody kind of knows me and smiles at me. So interestingly, in about 1 month, he changed his attitude towards himself, because he felt that, remember the social regard, that he felt that, okay, if everybody kind of recognizes me and maybe even likes me, then, you know, I can do it too. So he graduated from year 11 with pretty good IGCSE results. Okay, so then All About Me forms, as I said, why do they stop in early years? They should continue. Buddy lunch, knowing every child through index card rosters, discussed in faculty meetings. On Edutopia, there are a lot of videos on strategies that build relationship. So there was one of it talking about knowing every child through index card. So it's about in the faculty meetings having the names of the kids just on the cards, and sometimes every meeting just picking up 5 kids and talking about those kids, so that the whole faculty knows about their academic progress, but also about them as people. So personal messages of encouragement, which even became easier now with the online world, because now you can literally just send a very quick note to a student in all the year groups, and with younger year groups, just have a conversation in class. So asking students at the beginning of the day or in the end of the day what went well in school and outside school, and making the students share with each other and share with you. So by that, learning about the students more. And one-to-one interaction, even if it's short, the so-called I see you moment, it's especially powerful with difficult students, like, for example, the story of Alex that I mentioned. Okay, so as I said, there are a lot of great strategies here in Edutopia in fostering positive relationship side of it. And then also the brain breaks in the classroom. The research says that they also strengthen student-to-student and teacher-student relationship, because it's a collective action. And especially now when your students are sitting physically distant at their own space, and there's not so much movement as before around the class, the brain breaks have become now that crucial part of the lesson. So I offer you to do more brain breaks in the physical classroom, and in the online classroom there is this beautiful brochure that Geelong Grammar School Institute of Positive Education created with the brain breaks for Zoom or for any online classes. There are a lot of great activities there. So, and quickly we move to belonging. So belonging at school is yes, it's connected to relationship, but it's actually a deeper meaning, because if you as a teacher, you still have power over building the relationship with the student, and you can make a lot of effort for that. The belonging at school is a feeling that the student must have. So the perhaps the most commonly used definition was offered by Goodnow and Grady. The belonging at school is the extent to which students feel personally accepted, respected, included, and supported by others in the school and social environment. So it's a subjective feeling. So we have a Mentimeter here. If we can go to this. So thinking back to your secondary school years, to what extent would you agree with the following statements? So I feel like I'm a part of my school. Like, think about your past, your schooling days. Did you feel like a part of a school? Did you feel proud to belong to your school? I know that it's a little bit of a memory exercise, but I'm sure that we kind of still have that feeling in us, whether we had happy school days or not very happy school days. And as you answer these questions, also think about what made you feel this way. Was there a particular teacher that made you feel this way? Did you have a group of friends? Or perhaps you were a part of a squad, or you were in a drama studio in school. Who was your champion? What made you feel belong to your school? What made you feel that you can really be yourself at school? And if your experience was not that positive, also what made you feel so? It's important that we remember ourselves as students and remember what made us feel belong to school, or what actually spoiled our experience, so that we are aware of the same dynamic with the students today. Because, you know, for adolescents are adolescents, children are children. It is not changing whether we are in a hybrid environment or in a physical. So interestingly, going back to the data. So when I was presenting this to my teachers at the beginning of this academic year, I didn't have the data for 2020, so I could only compare the 2019 data. So as you can see, my school was almost the same as Dubai in terms of the school belonging. Moreover, I could see that from 2017 to 2018 and 19, the belonging went a little bit down, which I've explained by the fact that the new year groups have been added. So remember 2017, we didn't have all the year groups, and then they were added. And if you look at 2019 data, you can see that, of course, as children progress, then the sense of belonging kind of drops, and then they're more in the medium category. So I got really interested in this data, and then I found that Dr. Peggy Kern, the one who came to KHDA a couple of years ago, have written a book in 2020 about boosting school belonging. So I kind of got the book, started reading in, and I found interesting things. So for example, what actually is this sense of belonging, right? So we said that it's a subjective experience, but what is it? So it's a feeling. It's not about how many friends a student might have. It's a subjective sense that others actually care about them, right? So this is why the sense of belonging is even more difficult than just building a relationship, because it's a subjective sense. It's personal, right? The student is known by others, not just by name or face, but others know their interests, fears, hopes, and dreams. So we belong when we feel that we are more to our teachers than just the way we perform on a test, right? The student is accepted for who they are, both their strengths and weaknesses. They are respected by others and treated with a full sense of humanity. They're included in various groups, and they are the parts of school community, and they're supported and they get help when they need it. And finally, all of this is enabled by others in the school community. So everybody, the peers, the teachers, parents, staff, school leaders, all play a role in making each student feel like he or she belongs. So if we had to sum it up, like in what it is, the student feels that he belongs when he connects with his peers, parents, teachers, oneself, learning, and help seeking when they know where to go when they need help. So I highly recommend this book. It has a lot of strategies on how to connect with each of these categories, right? So there are activities which you can either build into your curriculum or do with students that you have perhaps issues with their sense of belonging or relationship. And again, teachers are a critical part of this. Studies clearly show that positive student-teacher relationship has the greatest impact on school belonging, and that it creates the students are more likely to report feeling like they belong when they sense that one or more teachers care about their learning, have an interest in them as individuals, and have high academic expectations. And while teachers play a critical role, others in the school community matter as well. So it's all members of school community. So when I was presenting it to our teachers, I said, I expect the 2020 data to drop. Because, we have a difficulty connecting to students right now, right? Because some of them are live, some of them online, and then we're all restricted by movement, and students are not necessarily a part of groups anymore. We don't have, we can't have a school performance. There's a difficulty with squads. So all of those aspects kind of disappeared. And I was absolutely shocked to see that the result actually is higher than before. And by your answers, I also saw that 10 people have noticed the same result here, and it was the highest result from our Menti questionnaire. And if you could see that it was significant increase year group wise, right? So the grade, the year 5 last year that was showing 54%, now is showing 71. Of course, you can see by the data that the year 9, which is now, the year 9 last year, which is now year 10, still has 29%, but that's a cohort issue. So there are students there that, it's a deeper problem than this. But as you can see, every year group had an increased sense of school belonging, and that's a very interesting phenomenon. So doing very quick anecdotal interviews with the students, I could perhaps see that they value school now so much more than before. And even if the school doesn't look like before, they still want to belong to that community there. And because they want to belong to the community, and because they feel that together they persevere through these difficult times, they feel that their sense of belonging is even higher. Right? And yeah, that was also a graph. So in terms of different ideas on cultivating belonging mindset, there is this book that I recommend, and there are a lot of videos as well on Utopia and many other channels. But I really love watching videos because, I can watch a video on a treadmill or when I'm doing something or when I'm cooking. So look at this list, and just quickly look at this list, and there are 7 aspects that students need to feel, students need to have to feel that they belong to school. And out of the 7, just make a quick note for yourself if there is something in your class or in your school that you think you need to work on. Just a note to yourself. Okay. So in terms of the summary, so we talked about positive relationship and how the relationship and care power students' resilience. So from social regard to self-regard to courage to hope to resilience. The move from behavior management to relationship management, unconditional positive regard, even in case of negative behavior, and that the school belonging is the extent to which students feel personally accepted, respected, and included. Okay, so that's it from me. Over to you.
Thank you, Katerina. It was a beautiful. Thank you, Katrina. It was a beautiful presentation with lots of great tips and advice. I love the way you said about being physically distant but socially close, especially during these times. It's so important for our relationship and school belonging. Now we will go to the Q&A session with Katrina. Please add your questions to the chat feature and we will try to get through as many as we can. So we have the first question here. You mentioned that it is important to separate the child from their negative behaviors. That is really hard to do sometimes. Any tips here?
I hope my tips will help, but as Lee Waters says, whenever you see a child behaving in a way that is not desirable, you always think, first of all, you take a deep breath in, breathe out, right? And then she calls it strength switch. So you have a switch and you think the strengths are there, but they're hiding. So in any negative behavior, there is a message. There is either a strength that is not catered to, or there is a need that is not catered to. So as adults, it's our job to recognize what is it, a strength or a need, and then cater to it. But there is no child who is born to be, naughty or to show negative behavior. This is their way of communicating. It's our job as adults to understand what they want to say.
Lubna, you're on mute, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Katerina. There is a second question here. Our school belonging, especially in year 8 and 9, among boys is low. Do you have any small intervention that you can introduce as a start to tackle this?
So we need to dive a little bit deeper. And if we look at this diagram that I showed, that the school belonging consists of the relationship with teachers, peers, learning, help seeking, we need to understand what actually is the aspect there that gives them the lowest sense of belonging. So if there is a problem with peers, we need to look at the instances of perhaps bullying or some kind of like name calling or whatever you have data in the school on the behavior in class. And if it is there, then there are interventions, great intervention in this Peggy Kern's book on belonging, when the problem with belonging are the peer relationship. It's this book is on rent on Amazon for Kindle if you don't want to buy the whole paper book, but every page has a lot of strategies.
Okay, the third question is, thank you for the presentation. I too love learning new things via video while walking outside. My question is, have you shared your well-being data with students, and are they involved with improvements in school belonging?
Yeah, we haven't shared it yet. We are planning to share it after Ramadan. We have just analyzed it ourselves so far, but we will be sharing it with our student council after Ramadan.
The fourth question is, we know that some Dubai school features are higher proportion of tarnished students. What about students that are only at the school for a short time before they go elsewhere? How do you improve school belonging when they will only be there a short time?
So with the short time students, I mean, short time can be 2 months or it can be a year, right? Whatever it is, when the critical week for any student is the first week at school. So how does your induction look like? When you induct a student to a school life, Is he buddied up with somebody else in class? Is his name added onto the class? Did his teacher learn more about the student? And so on and so forth. So I don't think that there should be something different to a student who is with you for a term to a student who is potentially with you for 5 years, because first of all, we don't know whether it's going to be 5 years. Dubai is so transient that the student can leave in 6 months, but it's in the first couple of weeks that a student will feel either welcomed or not. And sometimes we need to put extra effort. So especially with the students who come with the lower levels of English language, or who come from abroad and they are, they don't have anybody of their nationality in the class. So we need to pair them up carefully. I'm sorry, Lubna, you're on mute.
Thank you, Katrina, so much, and thank you everyone for your questions. So, and finally, the session today has been recorded, and you can access today's session and other sessions by going to the New Ways, New Days website. I would like to remind you all that we are having a session tomorrow from 10 a.m. with Miss Juliana from Ittihad School. The session will be about social and emotional well-being. If you have not registered, please register at the link that we have posted in the chat to get access to the link if you have not already registered and received the agenda for all the workshops. Remember, we are creating a culture of well-being, not an add-on and not something you do once in a while. Schools must commit integrating well-being into the heart and the curriculum of the school. Before ending the session, this tomorrow's session is Juliana will be hosting, Juliana Abdel Samad, and she's the Quality Assurance and Parent Relation Executive at Ittihad Private School Jumeirah. Her session will be about social, emotional, and emotional well-being tomorrow.